of Programs for AFCEA Central Maryland. Very excited to kick off 2021 with our January virtual luncheon. Everybody welcome. Before we get started, I wanted to let everybody know we've got a slight change in our agenda. That's just mainly to line up our speakers, accommodate some schedules and things like that. I'll be turning over to Gary for announcements after our featured speaker. We've got a great lineup. I'm really excited about everybody speaking today. Before I introduce our featured speaker, I would like to let everybody know on the call that if you have questions for General Alexander, feel free to enter them into the Q&A section, not the chat, but the actual Q&A section. You should see a little Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Enter questions there, and you can do that anytime while he is speaking, and then we'll ask those questions after he has spoken. So now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our featured speaker for the day. General Keith Alexander, retired, is the founder, chairman, and CEO of IronNet Cybersecurity. And no surprise, he's one of the foremost authorities on cybersecurity in the world. Four-star Army General Alexander was previously the highest ranked military official for U.S. Cyber Command, NSA CSS, where he led those DoD agencies during the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq, and through some serious attempted cyber attacks against the U.S. were on the rise. In recognition of his work and the increasing importance of cybersecurity, President Barack Obama and Defense Secretary Robert Gates appointed General Alexander as the first commander of the United States Cyber Command, which was a newly created military institution charged with defending the nation's cyberspace. He's a leader with vision and a pragmatic approach to tackling the ever-changing cyber threat landscape. General Alexander built IronNet to bring this knowledge and experience to the private sector and fill in a critical gap between cyber threats and available security technology. General Alexander holds a Bachelor of Science from the U.S. Military Academy, a Master's in Business Administration from Boston University, and master's degrees in Systems Technology, Physics, and National Security Strategy. General Alexander, I'm excited to have you here. During my time being billable supporting the cyber mission, I got a chance from time to time to see you in action, and it is just a great honor to have you speaking today. Sir?
Thanks, Al. It's an honor to be here. I'll tell you that, these are really interesting times for our nation, not just the political side, but perhaps more importantly for every one of you in the audience, for what we face now and in the future. Our country is increasingly going to be attacked in cyber. That's my personal opinion, my professional assessment. And you see that in things like SolarWinds and all the ransomware attacks, digital fraud that's going on. The internet is increasingly very important to us as a nation. The amount of data is doubling every year. The number of devices is increasing on an exponential rate, as are the protocols and other things that we deal with. In this area, we cannot go it alone, and our government cannot do it by themselves. So up front, I wanted to thank all of you for what you do to support our nation and our government in your jobs, because we're going to have to do this together. So my talking points are actually going to be around, so how do we work this together as a team? What is it that our nation needs to do? What's your role? How do we kind of piece this together? And everybody's got a part in this. This isn't something that one company is going to do by itself, because no one company can do it. A lot of people will claim that, but the practical reality is cybersecurity is a team sport. And in this teaming relationship, we got to learn how to share together. I want you to think about a few things in this discussion. First, when we talk about sharing, most people talk about sharing information once they've understood it, once they have looked at it from a liability and a reputational risk, and then it's shared with the ISACs and with other close partners. But that's not sufficient for the future. When I talk about sharing, What I'm talking about is sharing at machine speed. So think about how radars allow us to see a real-time picture of air traffic across our country and around the world. Information from radars is shared at network speed. There is no one person at each radar station typing up an email saying, here's what I saw, and sending it to other operators to open, read, and then understand and apply. It's done automatically. Yet in cyberspace, we share information through emails or Stixtaxi or some other way. That's totally inadequate. When you think about the SolarWinds attack, this really highlights that problem. 18,000 companies were impacted, including major portions of our government. None of them saw it. While behavioral analytics did detect it, many companies didn't use that. And as a consequence, they didn't understand the width and breadth, nor did the government have access to that data in order to do something about it. This was the biggest problem that I saw when I ran US Cyber Command and NSA. We had the responsibility to defend the nation from attacks, but we couldn't see it. In the industry, the commercial sector couldn't share it in a meaningful way. The consequence, we share information human to human by email, but not at network speed. I believe that has to change. It has to change quickly, because this is an area where our adversaries see that they are near peers. They can hurt us in cyberspace because we're not ready to defend at a national level. Every company defends itself. Think about, as an example, an easier example for me is to think about 90 mid-sized banks, each with about 10 people, each of them protecting that one bank. And next to them is another bank protecting against similar attacks. They can't see what each other are seeing, nor can they work together. There is no real knowledge sharing in that regard at network speed, nor can the government see what's hitting them. And this was the case in SolarWinds. It was detected by behavioral analytics, but not shared. How do we make that step? That's what you and others, we all need to work together. Our future is in this network. Our intellectual property, the future of this nation, our financial capabilities, everything that we do, working from home, our future is in this network. And we today don't have the ability to defend it the way we should. We need to step back and think about this now as an element of national power, where each and every one of you and your companies and mine are all in it together. So the question now becomes, okay, if we're in it together, how do we work together? In the physical world, we don't have to worry about attacks in the physical space. We don't have to worry about armored divisions coming down from Canada. I checked, we're okay. We're not going to have ships and other things come to our shores in a meaningful way, as we will in cyber. What Russia did in the SolarWinds, in my opinion, was espionage. They stole data from a lot of government agencies and impacted a number of companies. A number of companies got the second stage, the teardrop implant. Those companies that were impacted by this have a lot of work to do, and most of those are in the federal government. And imagine if you go back to 2017, when Russia attacked the Ukraine over some issues they had in the physical space. They used cyber as a method of attack. They first hit the electrical sector, and in 2017, they hit the Ukraine tax with MEDOC exploit that actually went around the world and hit companies like Maersk, Merck, FedEx, and others, and was billions of dollars in damage. That destructive malware was later revealed in October 2020 to have come from the GRU. The attack that we saw with SolarWinds was from the SVR. They work together. My concern is when attacks go from espionage to destructive attacks. I believe that crosses the line for an act of war. Are we ready? If SolarWinds had been a destructive attack, the answer is no. We weren't ready. We're not ready. Our government and industry isn't working together like it needs to. And we all have to help. I think with the new administration, you can see that they're putting cyber in this partnership as one of the key things that we need to do. We ought to all help do that. There's work for us all here. This isn't one company, it's all of us. And that work together would be going after this as a team. And I think this is the future. The internet is our future, and protecting it is something all of us can do. And I think this is where organizations like AFCEA and what we bring together here can help us bring that message. What can we do to help our government do their job? I think that's a real good opportunity. And many of you, like me, came from the government, came from the military, and now see this as an opportunity to give back and to help. And I will tell you, they're going to need our help. Now, I did see, and you saw in some of the confirmation hearing questions to the nominee for the Defense Department, Lloyd Austin. How are you going to fix your acquisition system? Okay, so there's work to do there. He's got a big job. Our job should be to lean forward and to help, and to do it with our allies. If I were to give you, in summary, a way of doing it, it's by networking companies together in an anonymized way. I'm not talking about content of communications. I'm not talking about intellectual property. I'm not talking about naming companies that the data comes from, but sharing that anonymized information by sector with the government at speed. And the government sharing back information on attacks and threat information at speed. So everybody benefits. We work this together. When you look at what's going on with hospitals, schools, ransomware, and other things, it's reaching itself a pandemic in cyberspace. And we now need to step forward and work this collectively. So with that, Al, let me open it up for questions. Or not.
Yeah, so folks, feel free to jump onto the Q&A. I can't believe for a minute that this audience doesn't have some questions around this. And if you don't, you're going to be forced to hear my questions. So, you know, feel free to jump on and throw some questions into the mix here. All right, here we go. Okay, this is an interesting one. What are your thoughts on quantum computers and their impact to the internet?
Quantum computers are coming. It's just a matter of time. I think there'll be a lot of issues over quantum encryption, quantum breaking. How do we get out in front? This is an area. I looked at 5 areas of economic competition. Quantum computing is one of those. So we have to lead, or at least be in the front in this area. And because of what it can do for decrypting our sensitive communications. It can also be used, though, as a way of expanding and speeding up computation in cloud and other activities. So there's the positive. And then, of course, there's a concern of what happens when our communications all of a sudden going from 30 years to decrypt to a week. This puts us in a hugely different area. We have to be out in front of that. I know the government's working on that as well.
So I'll follow up real quick with what are the other 4?
So when I look at it, the areas of competition are machine learning, AI. Mm-hmm. Let me make sure I get all these. It's cybersecurity. When you think about what we just talked about, how you put it all, it's nuclear power, and it's the biotech area. So when you put all those on the table and you think about this, these are the areas that when you add in machine learning, AI, cybersecurity, I put those kind of together, the nuclear energy. How does our country compete in nuclear energy? Today, we've kind of fallen behind, and Russia and China have that. The concern is their nuclear power is not as secure. You've got the biotech, what's going on in biotech, and you've got what's going on in quantum computing. These are areas, and there's probably others, but these are the ones that I see competition coming in right now. And we really need to get out. Oh, one of those I didn't mention was 5G. I'm sorry, our 5G. So 5G is probably the nearest one coming at us, and we're not leading in that. So this is one that the previous administration worked and that we need to work as well.
Agreed. Okay, some guy named Paul Gentili has a question for you. I'm sure you know that name. Given what happened with solar winds, what actions would you recommend the U.S. take against Russia?
So it's a great question, Paul. From my perspective, it's got to be, I think, a measured response, probably starting with diplomatic and political, not cyber nor physical, because we're not ready to defend in this space. So we have to take a measured response. And I think this is where the Secretary of State and the White House can reach out and say, you got to knock that off. And they can send a stern message. The intelligence community can send a message, and they can use Cyber Command and NSA to help send that message. I think doing it covertly ensures that it doesn't raise into a back and forth. That's what I'm concerned about. You do not want to get into attacks going back and forth, because we have more to lose.
Excellent. Okay, Joe, you've got a question here. General, from a business perspective, how do you value cybersecurity? Can you measure the return on investment for money spent on cyber? Which I think is really to the point of a lot of companies don't invest what they should, and how do you justify it, right?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Joe. I think when I look at this area, it's an expense. It's also a risk. Increasingly, boards and C-suite executives are looking at this. It's a risk that they can't afford not to be properly invested in. I think it bridges out to, do we have the legislation right to protect people, both from a liability and a reputational risk? How do we do that? So I think I would look at this in a couple of areas. We need to educate boards and C-suites on the cyber risk coming at them. We need to work with Congress on fixing the legislation, taking another step at that, to ensure not only the public-private sharing, but also to help companies be more forthcoming in talking about breaches that occur. Because right now, the first thing that happens in a breach is the lawyers step in and everybody has got a gag order. When actually what you want to do is say, we've got a problem, how do we help that? Mandy and Kevin Mandia did a great job when he came forward and said, hey, we've been breached, here's what we did, and here's how it's going to help. And had they not done that, we may not have known about solar winds. So I think that kind of approach is right for our country.
I do agree, and I think the some of the commentary I saw online that got a chuckle out of FireEye getting sort of owned, if you will, I think was completely misguided. And I think that it was great that they stood up and admitted to it. Okay, Chris Richmond, what new cybersecurity is needed from the Biden administration to ensure we can move at the speed of the network?
So I think there's a couple things, and I like some of the folks that he's hired. You all know, like Ann Neuberger and some of the others that are coming into the administration, are ones that are predisposed to work with industry. And so I think, Chris, that's a great approach, is to start that public-private partnership, come up with the sharing relationships, come up with a panel for doing that. Ann was really the key behind running the Enduring Security Framework for 7 years when I was there. That was the industry government partnership on a series of levels. I think that's what they need to do. The government can't share everything with everybody, so you've got to pick up a mechanism to do that. And I think they will start doing that. And we've got to help.
Agreed. All right, let's see. Scott Lathrop. How receptive to information sharing are the folks in industry that you're speaking with? Do you feel that some industry sectors are more forward-leaning than others?
Yeah, hey Scott, that's a great question. First, I do think some sectors lean forward more than others. Energy is predisposed to share. I think healthcare will be predisposed to share.
Mhm.
Others that have a lot in there see this as an area of competition, but I think that's the wrong approach. If you're looking at cyber as an area of competition and you're a big bank as an example, you're just a big target. And as others get increasingly there, if you go back to the issue with solar winds, if you're not inside that massive sharing capability, then you're outside and left alone. So I do think we have to change that. I do see areas where some CEOs say, no, we're not going to share. Reputational risk. We have liability concerns and we lawyer up. So that's part of legislation that we've got to help get beyond. And I think bring together senior industry leaders and say, how do we crack through that so people share this in a way that can help us defend the country?
So do you think that is that sort of legal immunity is something that probably needs to be part of legislation? If you
I think we
share.
need to look at how you do that liability protection.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the specific things, but I'd say, okay, we have a problem right now. People are reluctant to share because of liability concerns and reputational risk and the impact on their company from a fiduciary responsibility. So how do we fix that? And I'll just start with that. Tell me how we fix that.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Next question is from Steve Calhoun. And I'm going to warn everybody that I doubt we're going to get to all these questions because they are rolling in now, but I appreciate them. The FBI stood up the National Defense.
You still there?
I hope Al wasn't subject to a cyber attack.
Yeah, so I can read this comment. So the FBI stood up the National Defense Cyber Alliance, which is a collaborative anonymous sharing arrangement for commercial sector. Is the National Defense Cyber Alliance a useful model? I think there is a way to use that. I think the issue that I see is when you look at how it's shared by email. It's not machine-to-machine sharing. So I think we need to take another step, Steve, and we need to go to machine-to-machine sharing. I'll go to the next question. So I have learned to read for you guys. So Brian Israel, do our research universities realize the impact of Chinese IP theft and what they are doing to make sure that our IP is not stolen? That's a great question. I think most universities are looking at it more from the helping educate people, not what they're stealing. So I don't think that's first on their list. I think it is an area of concern and increasingly an area that we've got to get our hands around, especially some of these universities that are doing research for the government and for industry that could have competitive issues with China and other countries like that. So I absolutely agree that we need to do it. Okay, the next one is from Mike Hankey. Hey, Mike, how are you doing? Historically, the government loves to receive data, but isn't always ready to share. How do we convince them the sharing is a must and it will make them and us better cybersecurity entities? So this is Mike Hankey that I'm reading, Al. And so, Mike, I think actually my experience is the government wants to share. I think the issue is how do we streamline the sharing process, make it real time as well? Because right now the sharing process goes through DHS, who has to do work with it. They get it in from the NSA Cyber Command and other agencies, and then they share it out through the ISACs. How do we now streamline this? If we look at it in the radar analogy, what we're really talking about, why don't we go to a point where we're sharing it automatically and get the government to be part of it? And the government seeing that can tell us what's really bad and what we should be worried about. I think we've got to get to that. It's almost the way we do air defense today. And so I think we've got to do that. Back to you, Al. I just finished up Mike Hankey.
Okay. I seem to have lost the questions in the chat. I got completely booted,
Okay.
and I do apologize. Of course.
Okay, so let me just pick them up. I'm going to roll on these. So I've got Eric DeVito. We understand the importance of establishing standards for and delivering cybersecurity training for professionals. What do you think would be the best approach for K through 12 cybersecurity training? You know, I think teaching them the basics of security in high school, in grade school, about their passwords, why this stuff has to be protected, issues of going online. I have 16 grandchildren. Thanks, Al. I know I don't look that old. We have
course.
all these grandchildren. I want them to be smart about stalkers and other things that go online. But as they get older, they have money. Some of my grandchildren are saving money for cars, and they're doing all these things. So they need to ensure that their passwords and other things are protected. We should ensure that that stuff that's baked in. Remember, they're born of the internet. We got to help them ensure that when they take over, they're ready to defend it. So great question, Eric. Andrew Ziegler, Zeke. Okay, specific to the earlier question, with the new administration in place, what immediate executive orders, authorities, or policies, in your opinion, will further enable your vision to allow industry to support government in cyberspace? I think they've already said parts of it, but that is, we need government and industry to work together and share threat-related information, not IP, not the content of communications, but threat-related information at network speed for the common defense. Let's do collective defense as a nation. I think that's one of the areas they can and should push in. A lot of people say it's not possible. Technically, it's possible, and we should do that. So great question, Zeke. Do you have yours up yet or no?
Yeah, so I'm seeing them now. Thank you for doing my job for me, sir. All right, Charlie Savaggio. Given your timeline within government and in the private sector, what is the best approach for incentivizing tours of duty for professionals to move between private and public sectors during their careers?
That's a great question, and something I'm a huge advocate for. And that is, we need to cycle people in from industry to help government and then bring them back out. I do like keeping people in government, especially the military. So don't poach the military. We want to keep them in there. We want to get them going because they're helping defend our country. And the same with government agencies. But I think having people come in and spend a tour or two in the government actually helps them see that these are good people. And almost everybody on this call knows that because you've been involved in the government yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing the job our nation needs them to do. The more that's visible to the American people, the better off we are as a nation. They need to know that these are really good people doing that job. Go ahead, Al. We can do one more, I think.
Yes, one more question. Until we move to a seamless Team Protect model, how do we help small industry partners protect shared information without burdening them with large price tags to protect the information to conduct government business?
Yeah, so this is where collective defense really has an advantage. Multi-tenancy in the cloud, collective defense, bringing small companies together in a collective defense model. Doing it for the defense industrial base and for others is the way to go forward. We're doing that for some of the munis and co-ops. Think of these as small energy companies, and we need to do the same in the defense industrial base. These are things that we need to work out. I heard that there's over 100,000 companies that do business with the Defense Department alone. And when you look at all the little contractors, some of those are 4-person shops with tremendous intellectual property. So providing them kind of a collective defense model where they're protected is in our nation's best interest because that's where our innovation is coming from. So we want to do that. And it kind of goes back to that college question, how do we help in universities and stuff? So I think we have a tremendous opportunity here to work together. So thanks.
I agree. So, sir, thank you so much for your time. I know you're now a minute behind on your next meeting, but I do want to thank you so much for participating. I want to thank the audience for the questions. You will be receiving a thank you AFCEA coin at some point when I can manage to socially distance deliver it to your workplace there. And also thank you to your assistant Luann for all the help she gave in setting all this up.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Al. And thanks to everybody on here. Thanks for what you're doing for our country. Greatly appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. At this point, I do want to apologize to everybody for the blip there. I got completely kicked off the call, and of course, the general did an outstanding job in getting the questions answered and doing an audible there. At this point, I am going to turn it over to our chapter president, Gary Rosen, to do announcements, and we'll get on with the rest of our program.
Thanks, Al. And thanks, General Alexander. That's a tough act to follow. And I know I personally found it very interesting, and there were some common themes about teamwork and unity and doing things together to solve tough problems, and look forward to helping all of us solve what is a big challenge for our customer and our country. And I want to welcome everybody to starting 2021 virtually. I'm hoping that we'll be able to switch over to in-person at some point during this year and be able to see everybody. And we continue to adjust to a virtual world, and there are some events I'll quickly go over with the announcements here. On the 26th in the morning at 8 o'clock, we're having Technology Over Bagels with VMware, and you can learn all about how to run apps in a Kubernetes environment. Next Friday at 12 o'clock, there's a small business lunch and learn, where we're gonna have a panel led by Bob Parlock for ESI, and we're gonna talk about IRAD, everything you wanted to know, from tax consequences to how to get your technology in front of customers. So that's Friday the 29th. And on February 10th at 5:30, we're gonna have the Young AFCEA Valentine's Social. It's a far cry from our big Valentine's Day gala, but it's a way to adapt to today's environment. And then our Bull and Oyster Roast, which we moved to the winter, hoping we could get it in. It's clearly not going to happen, so we have it scheduled for November 6, 2021 at a new venue, Martin's West in Woodland, Maryland. So mark your calendar for the return of the Bull and Oyster Roast. And with that, I will introduce Tiffany Tong, who's our Vice President for the Young AFCEANs, who has been spearheading a lot of the activities that the YAC has provided to our community, and she's going to introduce our special speakers from NPower. So thank you, everybody, and happy 2021.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Gary. The NPower organization that we'll be introducing shortly provides tuition-free technology, training, and certifications to young adult job seekers, offers an alternative fast track to technical jobs with employers committed to hiring diverse IT talent. NPower is truly launching technical careers and transforming lives through their national mission to include right here in our Baltimore area. At this time, I would like to introduce the core NPower team, to include Ms. Kendra Parlock as Executive Director, Demetrius Goodwin as Program Director, Joanna Dixon as the Placement Director, and Olivia Johnson, an NPower alumni and current AFCEA Diversity Committee member and an AFCEA NPower liaison. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today to share more about your organization, mission, objectives, long and short-term goals, as well as your deep impacts to the community. I'd like to just remind the audience to please enter any questions that you may have in the Q&A area of our platform, and answers will be provided as time allows. Kendra and Demetrius, over to you and your team.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, AFCEA Central Maryland, for the invitation to share with you at your virtual luncheon. And thank you to the General for kicking us off with the theme that is right. No one can do this alone. We are all in this together. And so NPower, we were established in 2000. We're a national nonprofit operating in 10 cities. And what we do is that we serve as a link between non-traditional job seekers and employers that are working to hire diverse IT and cyber talent, creating an alternative fast track for veterans, as well as young adults from traditionally underserved and under-resourced communities here in Baltimore, Central Maryland, and again on the national scale. I'm Kendra Parlock. I'm the Executive Director. I'm a recovering corporate Six Sigma Black Belt and STEM professional, also a government performance leader who's turned to nonprofit leadership really as being more deeply involved in proven solutions, right? Proven ways that business, IT community, nonprofits, community can partner in workforce development to improve neighborhoods and improve community. We must focus on economic needs, invest in economic mobility for our young people and also military veterans, addressing many disparities that we faced in the midst of the pandemic. And so we know that, you can move to the next slide, skills training is even more vital now as we accelerate toward a digital economy and address our country's needs in IT and cyber. Move to the next slide, please. Thanks. Yeah, IT jobs are, we know, are on the rise due to remote work in response to COVID-19. Of the nearly 6 million jobs in the US expected to require tech skills and cyber training, the labor stats project that there's a candidate pool of only 3 million. So I know many of you and your organizations may be rethinking your hiring practices and are looking for alternative pathways to fill your pipeline. And we serve to partner with you in that effort. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our program director, Demetrius Goodwin, who will share more about the details of our program. And after that, you'll hear from our placement director, Tawana Dixon.
Thanks, Kendra. We can move to the next slide, please. So as Kendra mentioned, Demetrius Goodwin here, program director, U.S. Army veteran, 31 Romeo Signal Corps for a while. So, how do we do what we do here at NPower? I know the general said it's going to take everyone to accomplish this mission. And as Kendra alluded to, we feel like we have part of that solution when it comes to diverse tech talent. What we do is we take our trainees through, in this case, our 23-week Tech Fundamentals IT training program, which is centered around CompTIA certifications and credentialing. Now, as part of that 23-week program, our students receive not only the tech training, they also receive professional development and soft skills training. And that includes an opportunity for paid internship and job placement opportunities on the back end. Now, in addition to that, we have staff that is dedicated to providing also those personal services and social support services to our candidates while they're in training. And we know many of our candidates, our trainees, need those additional resources, in order to be successful and complete the program. We've also been able to, as a national program, be certified as a DOL registered IT apprenticeship provider, and also here in the state of Maryland as an IT pre-apprenticeship provider. And if you look at the yellow section of the circle here, it talks about mentors, guest speakers, and coaching. And that's part of the ways where we want to have the corporate community engage with us as a program and engage with our trainees. So for instance, as far as mentors, we have established what we call our mentor match program. And that is a formal mentorship where each one of our trainees is provided with a mentor for at least 6 months. But there's also opportunities around coaching and as well as being a guest speaker to our trainees while they're in the program. I can tell you now, they definitely want to and get a kick out of seeing, IT and tech professionals, cybersecurity professionals coming to the program to talk about certain career fears or career paths, or even tech trends, and then, how they can kind of get themselves into that potential career lane when it comes to IT. And then finally, we would love to work with organizations and have in the past when it just comes to something as simple as a virtual site visit or an on-site site visit. Companies like Under Armour, TD Ameritrade, and others have basically allowed us to come on site with our trainees to walk through and talk about their IT facilities and capabilities. And again, it serves to enhance that that experience for our trainees. Thus far nationally as NPower, we've served over 5,400 trainees, and then here in Maryland, we've served 362 since coming on board here in 2016. Next slide, please. Okay, our success. Look at the numbers here. We talked about that diverse pipeline of talent. As you can see, 30% of our talent, of our graduates are women, and 76% are either Latinx or Black, with 40% of those being military veterans. And then the ones that I wanted to point to, which is kind of in the bottom right or center right column, where the 384% average salary increase for our graduates nationwide. I think that says a lot when you look at, again, that about 95% of our students are underemployed or unemployed when entering the program. Next slide, please. So I mentioned our Tech Fundamentals program in our solution, but we also have what we call our advanced curriculum. And you'll see here where we have indicated our cybersecurity program, which of course is the topic of conversation here today. And that program, of course, is a 30-week training program geared toward our alumni and vets. And you can see the what CompTIA certifications that curriculum is centered around, as well as our cloud computing program. And we've been very successful with instructing and graduating and placing those graduates into great tech and cybersecurity jobs. Next slide, please. And then this here, again, just kind of breaks down what a typical class schedule could look like, not only here in Baltimore, but nationwide. Next slide, please. All right, and as the slide states, what jobs are our trainees prepared for upon graduation? Now, while this is not an exhaustive list, it does kind of give an indication of the types of jobs that we have filled and that we feel that our graduates are prepared to serve in. And again, looking at our tech fundamentals and what we consider those more entry-level jobs, all the way up through those cyber and cloud computing jobs where you have your penetration testers and certified ethical hackers and vulnerability analysts that I know many IT companies are looking for, and also inside the US government. Next slide, please. Okay, at this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Tawana Dixon, to take us on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tawana Dixon, as Demetrius stated. I've come from the for-profit education for the past 11 years, working as a campus president as well as a career placement director. And for me, it's career placement because I love to see people transform their lives based on education to get them to the next level of their lives. And I see that with NPower, and I'm happy to be part of this team. And it's nice to meet you all. So let's talk about our alumni success. We have Mr. Kyle Mitchell and Ms. Maria German. These two individuals, along with many, many more, as Demetrius stated, we have over 362 that we serviced, have went on to start new careers in the IT field and moved up the ladder, in a sense, to not only for themselves, but also people in their community. Kyle, again, is at Northrop Grumman, and Ms. Maria German is at the DISA, Fort Meade AVP, as a workforce manager for city. So therefore, our graduates, we actually trained them again in the professional development to get them to the next level of not with just their core skills, but their soft skills to handle management and other aspects that are required to be an IT professional. Next slide, please. We have every day, NPower is coming up with new initiatives to keep people and our trainees and the community involved in our success. And we have many, again, initiatives that you see in front of you. One of our goals is to have 40% of women in IT by 2022, which is called our 40 by 22 Women's Initiative. Our advanced tech careers that Demetrius talked about and talking about cybersecurity and cloud computing. We also, again, on-base military, we want to serve our veterans as they served us, and we want to get back to them in each way possible. So therefore, we would like to partner with you in some of these initiatives as well. Next slide, please. Apprenticeship. We have many ways that we partner with different companies in internship, direct placement, and as well apprenticeship. Apprenticeship actually is a great incentive for employers. It helps reduce employee turnover. It gives you professionalism skills that our students still work with us. You become registered in the Department of Labor for the state of Maryland as one of our apprenticeship providers. And also it helps us get the students ready again for that year-long transition into a professional career. Based for this, we have helped employers reduce employment costs when it comes to recruiting students. And part of our program, we are set up with the Department of Labor to have 100 apprentices by 2022. And we are already about 15% to our goal. So therefore, we would love to partner with you. If you'd like more information, we can talk after this meeting. Next slide, please. Corporate engagement. Again, we love to partner with you all for employment aspects, but also to help you recruit diverse talent, to host our internships and apprentices, and also direct hire. Virtual site visits. We have some employers who have done virtual walkthroughs during our professional development days to see a day in the life of an IT professional. We have volunteer engagement where we have people come, professionals such as yourself, come in and talk to our students about professionalism, soft skills. We do mock interviews and social networking as well. Again, we have our mentorship program, and we also have our mentor match that is ran through our national office. And fund our programs. Again, funding keeps us running to help us with the community and get our students to the next level. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Kendra, Demetrius, or myself, and we can take a couple questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra, Demetrius, and Tawana. Let's go ahead and move over to our Q&A portion. In kicking this off, I'd like to ask the first question. Could NPower please share some of the challenges as well as the opportunities during this time of pandemic?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tiffany. And yes, we were thankful to be able to make the adjustment, make the pivot to an all virtual program back in March. But definitely one of the challenging areas that we saw was in this area of digital equity, where almost a third of our trainees didn't have access to a device or internet, and so we were able to work with our partners to provide those things. But also, in this area of digital equity, really seeing that bridging the gap in terms of digital skills is equally important. And we've been able to partner with others to advance training to underserved communities here in the Baltimore region. Also training our students to help expand connectivity in the region.
Thank you, Kendra. We have another question. What are some additional opportunities and details that your organization can share as ways for our community to further engage with NPower, just in support of your mission? Essentially, how can we help execute your initiatives?
Right. Yeah. There's so many ways, and we're always would love to work with potential partners to customize opportunities. But as Tawana mentioned, we have there are big ways and smaller ways to engage. And so some of the big ways, are obviously, helping someone change their life. And that's, sponsoring someone as an apprentice, sponsoring a trainee as an intern. And then with that, some of the smaller ways, but, still impactful, are to engage with us through NPower Match. So that would be signing on as a mentor in our program. And I think most of you have probably, mentored or been mentored by someone, been a mentee before, but what we offer in this space is, one-to-one match. We take the guesswork, in terms of how to engage with your mentee by providing some structure in terms of, conversations, expectations for meeting, and then obviously the match. So we really take, some of the awkwardness out of, setting up those mentor-mentee relationships. And then we have as we talked about our tech fundamentals program and our cyber program, the tech training is one piece of it, but a large piece of it is also professional development. And so we are always looking for tech and cyber leaders to come into our virtual classroom now to share their professional experiences. So to talk, on a tech topic, or share about your career path, coming in, as an analyst, moving on to a director or leadership role. So those are, like I said, some of the small and big ways. And obviously we're a nonprofit, so our work is funded through philanthropy, government, corporate philanthropy, individual giving, and would definitely like to connect with you on with the AFCEA members on opportunities for funding.
Thank you, Kendra. Are there upcoming events that we can help support that are coming up that NPower holds, or we can also refer to your calendar?
Yes, thanks for asking. We're in the so our professional development events are Thursdays. So they kick off the week of February 22nd. So we can share that calendar. So that'll be February through May. And then we will be having a Women in Tech Day planned for March. March 12th is our target date for that. So would love to connect with you all on those events.
Thank
Did
you.
I miss anything, Demetrius, Tawana?
I was going to say, well, first of all, I wanted to say hello to Olivia. I know
Yes, thank
she's
you.
a big reason for us being here amongst you guys, and she's of course one of our alumni, and prime example of someone being given the opportunity. We talk a lot about opportunity to show their talent, but and Tawana, I don't know if you're going to talk about our marketing of the events and things of that nature, where again people can definitely volunteer, and that's a great event as well.
Yes, thank you, Demetrius. We actually do host mock interviews and speed networking events as well, virtually through Zoom, to, again, give our trainees talking to people to get comfortable in introducing themselves. We talk about resumes, we talk about the professionalism of social media, online, how to be made professional, all the aspects to make a great employee and a long-term employee.
So Timmy, I see some questions in the chat.
Great. So just looking over, would your organization mind sharing just some of the additional success stories, customers that some of your graduates have moved to support today?
Sure, we have CyberCore has graciously hosting 3 of our interns currently. We are working with Corteva. They accepted 10 of our apprentices as well. We partnered with Kaiser. We partnered with many people on the call. So thank you so much for your outpouring support in helping our students get to the next level of their lives. We've worked with different organizations as well, Northrop Grumman, which is a big supporter. So we have many corporate partners that have helped with the funding, the hiring, apprenticeship, and internship process for our trainees and alumni.
And I also see VMware and Leidos, I think, are on the call today, who've also been supporters of NPower Maryland. And thank you.
Thank you. That's so wonderful to hear. We also are looking forward to NPower has joined us on other AFCEA events, and looking forward to continuing that engagement. So I'm looking at our screen and for some reason I'm not seeing some of the Q&A. So
I
there
can
will-
see there's this question from Jessica Morgenstern. Where do your students get their training? Do you have trainers for your courses, or are they taking courses at existing training centers like local colleges? So we operate in 10 cities, and we have physical locations, training centers there. Here in Baltimore, we have 2 locations, one on the east and one on the west side of Baltimore, and they are great spaces that we currently aren't using due to COVID. So all of our training takes place virtually, and we have an instructors institute where we hire and train our instructors.
Great, thank you. I see a question here from Mr. Bill Donahue regarding digital equity. Lots of funds from public and private sources due to the pandemic. So how do we sustain this investment post-pandemic?
Yeah, so it's really, in this area of, so one of the things that we've done, is that I would consider a great innovation here in Central Maryland, specifically in Baltimore, is 50 organizations have come together as the Baltimore Digital Equity Coalition. And what that allows us to do is to pool our resources, pool our voices to to tap into government, to help government better understand the challenges that are facing our community, also to access dollars that would be coming from federal government to address areas in digital equity, and then also connecting through the workforce development boards, the chambers of commerce, who are all actively advocating in this area of digital equity. So and then of course partnering with someone like NPower, so organizations that are bridging that gap.
Thank you so much, Kendra. I think we have time for one more question from Christina. Are you able, is NPower able to help your trainees obtain sponsorship for security clearances? And if so, how can our community help with that?
Yeah, so how we've worked with partners in the past is that our trainees come in as an intern or apprentice, and during that time they work with the sponsoring organization toward clearance.
Great. Well, NPower Maryland core team, thank you so much for sharing details on your organization to the AFCEA Central Maryland community and ways we can get involved towards supporting our joint community goal of building a greater and more diverse STEM workforce with expertise to ultimately support our important customer missions. So thanks again. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our AFCEA Central Maryland Vice President of Small Business, Kirsten Miller-Jones. Kirsten, over to you.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, guys. Yes, before I go ahead and introduce our small business speaker for today, just real quick reminder, like Gary said earlier, we do have our Lunch and Learn next Friday from 12 to 1. It's going to be a great panel, so I'd love to have you all join us. Now I'd like to introduce our small business speaker. Today we have with us Kathryn Shamleffer, the Chief Operating Officer from Helm Solutions. Kathryn, thank you so much for being with us and being a small business sponsor. We really do appreciate it. So I'll hand it off to you.
Well, thank you, Kirsten. And thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to speak about Helm today to all the AFCEA Central Maryland members and everyone participating. It's great to have all of this virtual participation. And the great words that we heard from General Alexander and the team at NPower, they've certainly given us some great ideas to set some initiatives to help address our nation's technical and cybersecurity challenges. Next slide, please. Helm has been collaborating with the government and industry in the intelligence community since 2007, under the leadership and ownership of Rhonda Cornelson, our CEO. We're a women-owned small business, and in short order, in 2008, we acquired Ward Solutions, formerly owned by Tony Ward. This is the same Tony Ward that many may relate to as the infamous Luncheon host. That acquisition launched our growth with NPO and the NGA customer. We currently have over 60 employees, and we're looking to expand that number in several areas. We're looking at strategic hires to expand our current program footprint. We're partnering to win contract awards and find a possible acquisition opportunity. We're looking for a good partner to form a joint venture where it makes sense, and we'd love to be able to participate in a mentor-protege program. Next slide. And in 2021, we're continuing our growth path. I'm sure everyone would agree last year was quite a challenge and very hard for everyone. Definitely not much growth in the IC. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I won't go into it, but I will just say one word, COVID. And then I'll add two more words, NIST compliance. Who knew that would be a soon-to-be reality by November 20th? And needing a system security plan and a POAM too. These events and others led us to sharpen our growth strategy here at Helm Point. And so we're pursuing the lightning snow opportunity as a prime to expand our information assurance footprint. We're also pursuing another prime contract named REMCO that's with our Westfields customer. This contract is focused on emergency management and continuity of operations. We're currently evaluating teaming partners for this opportunity, and especially ones that have SCADA experience. Cyber readiness is a huge focus for us this year. This practice started with Helm Point over 2 years ago, and it was born out of the development of our leadership team while reviewing our own security practices. This is really hard stuff, and it's even more hard as a small business when you have limited resources on something that you know you have to get right. I personally know this is a daunting task, not only for small businesses, but also for the IT staff who are already overtasked and aren't quite sure if they're doing the assessments accurately. I know that there are a lot of companies that are doing the same thing. So you might ask, why Helm Point? Helm Point's biggest differentiator here is our partnership with FutureFeed. The FutureFeed tool is a cost-efficient, compliant environment that gives you a repository for assessing and providing a centralized system of record for all things NIST and CMMC. In conducting our own assessment, we had the opportunity to shape the development of the FutureFeed tool, and we established a methodology that aligned with that tool to make it easy so that all businesses, regardless of size, don't have to expend enormous resources, both in people and dollars, to meet this mandate and meet it with confidence. We kept telling the FutureFeed developers, it's too hard. It needs to be easier, or companies just won't use the tool. The team at FutureFeed listened to us. We now have a SPURS report that is available at the click of a button. Now, getting into SPURS itself, that's not so easy. In fact, it was so difficult in the beginning that we developed a cheat sheet for our clients just so they could record their SPURS scores and get their contract awards and task orders. Do you know your SPURS score? If not, do you know where you can find it? Have you recorded your SPURS score yet? You can email me and I'll be happy to share our cheat sheet. And my contact information will be on the last slide. So what is your readiness level for cybersecurity? Even if you have one, how confident are you with it? For me, I had our own IA staff who do this on contract every day, help our back office meet this requirement. I still wasn't confident that I, who am not a cybersecurity professional, could articulate that our systems and our processes were secure enough, even though they were telling me it was. But it's my signature that goes on the contract documents, and I needed that confidence level before I would sign off that our systems were secure. Once I got into the FutureFeed tool and could see where we met the requirements and where in some cases we may not, I could easily figure out what our next steps would be to get us compliant. And then I could build a budget and a schedule to get there, all within the FutureFeed tool. Now I had the easy button. And so we want to share that with other businesses facing the same requirement. We believe we can help the defense industry be NIST compliant. And we've taken this complicated process and made it easy. As General Alexander mentioned, we need to share and help each other do better to secure this country. As part of this journey, Helm Point is now a registered practitioner organization with the CMMC accreditation body, and we have registered practitioners who have trained through the AB and are currently conducting assessments. I've spoken to many companies who are struggling to find out what the compliance requirement is, who it applies to, and what they have to do to become compliant. We've had great success with our solution and are further developing it to provide cyber illumination capabilities for larger entities such as primes and government. So you ask, well, what is cyber illumination? The easy answer is that it's a 10,000-foot view that a prime can have over all of their subs to determine where their supply chain is secure, view their progress to get compliant, and determine if there's a concentrated strength or weakness in any part of their supply chain. This same viewpoint can apply from a government perspective on a particular program in a particular group or any specific designated area. It's not simply checking a box for compliance, it's knowing where your vulnerabilities lie so that you can address them before you become a cyber victim. So clearly we are quite busy this year already with this growth plan, and we're both looking within and outside our current customer space where we can offer similar repeatable solutions to different customers. Next slide, please. At HelmPoint, we have three primary focus areas. Cybersecurity group, which is focusing on the NIST compliance solutions, as I just mentioned. But in addition to our partnership with FutureFeed, we have brought on a cybersecurity assurance manager and a former authorizing official who served at the U.S. Cyber Command and was the Chief Risk Management Officer at the ODNI. As General Alexander mentioned, we have cycled industry into government and back out. So great example earlier, and that was not planned. Our engineering support services group is our longest running line of business, which also includes information assurance, systems engineering and integration services, software development, and IT and network system administration support. Our security support services group, which has morphed from the rebadging effort at Fort Meade to now offering services that include emergency preparedness, anti-terrorism support, awareness and training expertise, as well as the development of security practices and policies, and the implementation of both for those working in or visiting our government facilities. So naturally, our cyber solutions coupled with our engineering and our security support service offerings provide the solutions that protect the people, the perimeter, both physical and cyber, and our customers' assets. Next slide. We actively support over 15 contracts right now, mostly with large primes. The services that I mentioned are all performed on the contracts listed on this slide. Next slide, please. So what makes HelmPoint? Our mission is our culture. Our goal is to help secure the nation. We operate with this in mind each day as we select our team, choose our partners, support our customers, and contribute to the community. As for our team, we spend an extraordinary amount of time, probably to a fault, finding and interviewing the right candidates that will fit our culture, be in a position they enjoy, and will work well with our customer in their environment. We're always looking for partners to complement our solutions and give the best options to our customers. Our evaluation of the compliance tools led us to our FutureFeed partnership. This has spawned other partner relationships to provide our customers total solution offering when it comes to cybersecurity. We recently produced a white paper to address cyber readiness and provide a cyber illumination capability to one of our primes because we heard their customers plea for a solution that they couldn't fully identify with, and we were able to address and define the solution based on the assessment work we've currently been performing. HelmPoint has a variety of areas where we give back to the community. So to take from a recent TV series, This Is Us, our community is our employees and their families, their interest groups, and our industry and the future of our workforce. So we offer scholarships such as the AFCEA Jeremy Scholarship to the future talent that will be securing our nation and working in this community. And hopefully we can become a part of the NPower program as well. So I'm adding that to our 2021 list. We also have a Thankful and Grateful program where we contribute to organizations that our employees have told us is of special interest to them. And currently, this This past year, we supported Sophie and Madigan's Playground. It's a memorial playground that meets unique play needs for children of all capabilities in Frederick County. So we listen, we reward, and we develop, and we grow. We share our expertise with our customer, our coworkers, and our partners to provide great solutions in protecting our nation. Now we have to work on a technical way to do that, as General Alexander had suggested. So if you're looking to join our team in any capacity, please reach out to me. I want to thank you for your time today and all the AFCEA members. So together, let's go secure this nation.
Thanks, Kathryn. That was great. Definitely. So appreciate you being a small business sponsor and everything that you do for AFCEA. So I'm going to hand it off to Devin now.
Hey, this is Rebecca. So we are actually going to jump over into our networking session to conclude this luncheon today. So if you navigate back to your event page where you joined this event, you can go ahead and click on join session next to the networking, and we'll see you there.